John Neal here. Hello. Welcome. Welcome back to the playlist Question of Faith. And today I'm going to talk about two things which are closely related. I may have said in another video that when I was in my late teens, early 20s, when talking with other friends who were Christians, they were always claiming that Jesus was the way and that was it. There was nothing else. So I would put to them, well, what about the Muslims and the Jews and the Buddhists? How did they fit in? And really, they had no other answer than to say they were condemned. So Christians would go to heaven and all the others would go to hell. And I thought, right, okay, I don't quite follow that. And even the Pope, the previous Pope, not this one, previous one, said that all religions are seeking God, but with a different language each. And I thought it was a bit of a striking thing to say, because there is a common element to most Christians, and they say that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Let's have a closer look at this then. Now then, I'll put the Baha'i point of view first, because this is the one that resonated with me immediately I read it. And that was that all the religious teachings have come from the manifestations of God. In other words, messengers of God who have manifested what God is about. And that they have done so progressively. So from the very early Old Testament times, and indeed the times of Krishna and Buddha, way back in the history of the East, we have had messengers from God telling us what was relevant and what was needed for those times, which is why, in fact, they were particular for those times, and that some of the messages may be different. But the main message is basically to know and to love God. That's the same message all the way through. So as you move from one religion to another, from one messenger to another, that message gets updated. Very good example, of course, is Judaism through to Christianity. Now, Jesus came along, much to the surprise of the Jews at the time, because they didn't expect him as he was. And they thought, well, is this the Messiah? What's he going to teach us? We're expecting some great warrior to defeat the Romans. And he turned out to be a carpenter's son, preaching peace. Anyway, so there's a part in the Bible which is in John chapter 14, verse 6. And just before this, Thomas says to Jesus, Lord, we know not where you are going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus responds, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Right. Well, I agree with that, because what Baha'u'llah explains is that the messengers of God, like Jesus was, he manifested God. He was not God. Baha'u'llah puts it very clearly in a metaphor that the manifestations of God are like a mirror. When you look in the mirror, you see, let's say, the sun being reflected to you. You look into it, you can only just take it in because the mirror is so pure. But you look at it, you can feel the heat of the sun, you can see the light from the sun, you can see the power of the sun. But that's not the sun. The sun hasn't come down on earth. What you're seeing is a reflection of that. So if you want to see the sun, look in that mirror. And that's what the manifestations of God are about. That's a simple way of putting it. And I thought from those early days when I came across this as an idea, I thought, yeah, that's exactly it. And they differ in their messages if they do, and they do, because of the times. I mean, there's lots of rules and regulations and punishments in the Old Testament which were relevant to the people at a time. Jesus came along and essentially changed them. He says he came to fulfill the laws. but he changed them. And I know one or two stories where, you know, the one where there was a stoning of the adulteress, and Jesus said, the first who has sinned, you throw the first stone. And of course they couldn't, because they couldn't say that they had not sinned. So Jesus very cleverly and very wonderfully came along to change the laws and update them. There was a progression of the laws. And so now today we've come through Christianity, thinking of this end of the scale, if you will, through to Islam. And the Islamic faith in its heyday was absolutely staggering, what Muhammad had to say. But and again, it was relative to the people at that time, in the 5th, 6th century. So what we've got today is Baha'u'llah as the latest manifestation of God, giving the message for today. He says it's as if the divine physician diagnoses the illness of the times and gives us the medicine that is appropriate. And the medicine that we need today is unity, because disunity is causing so much trouble. He says the well-being of mankind, its peace and security are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. So that leads us on there. How do we get unity of religions? Well, this is what I'm trying to say, is that what Jesus says here, no one comes to the Father except through me. He's quite right. But he doesn't say, don't look at and listen to any of the other revelations. He doesn't say, don't look at Moses anymore. He doesn't say, when another one comes along, which will be Muhammad, don't listen to him. You've only got to listen to me. And then and I say this all due respect, there are many Christians who interpret this as saying, right, unless you know Jesus and give yourself to him and believe in Jesus, that's it. You're doomed. And it ties in, of course, with this idea of original sin. And I've talked about original sin on another video. So it's as if, and again, we are in need of education. It's true. We need to be brought to a higher spiritual level. We are not. It's not that we're sinning straight away. There's a baby born, he's a sinner. No, he needs education, and he needs a spiritual education to advance him properly as a human being. And so to be saved from our animal instincts is quite right, absolutely right. And Jesus is the sort of person who will do it. He is a manifestation of God, as all the others are. And Baha'u'llah says quite clearly that it's only through the manifestations, and this is an interesting point, it's only through the manifestations of God, the messengers of God, that we can do that. I know somebody who thinks that he has a direct connection with God anyway, and I sort of understand that, but unless God is, the concept of God is, it's not big, it's huge. It's bigger than huge. It's everything. It's beyond us. And we need some intermediary to give us that connection. We certainly do. And that's why we need the way, the truth, and the life. Baha'u'llah says this. He wrote, he who is everlastingly hidden from the eyes of men can never be known except through his manifestation. So there we have it. As far as I'm concerned, this statement about Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, absolutely true, but it applies not only to Jesus, but it applies to Muhammad, it applies to Baha'u'llah, it applies to the people of the Far East who might be Muslim or Christian or Buddhist. They all need to look towards the manifestations of God in order to make that progress of the knowledge towards God. So there we are. I don't know what you think. If you think that's reasonable, I think, of course, I think it's reasonable. And I was quite fascinated to have this as an idea way back when I was 19 or 20. And this is a good 15 years before I discovered the writings of Baha'u'llah and this concept of all religions approaching God from different angles came to me. It didn't come in a dream. I just thought, surely, you know, I could see all the other religions. I saw Christianity, I saw Muslims, I saw Buddhists, and I thought, well, they're all trying for the same thing. Why is it that Christians are saying to me, their way is the only way, and all the others are essentially wrong? I thought, I don't go with that. And in fact, there are, not only I've mentioned the Pope, Rob Bell is another famous American Christian. He ran a big church, one of these mega churches for a while. Let me give some more detail here. This is the book Rob Bell wrote called Love Wins, and this is from his website describing what's in the book. First, I believe that Jesus' story is first and foremost about the love of God for every single one of us. It is a stirring, beautiful, expansive love, and is for everybody, everywhere. There are a growing number of us who have become acutely aware that Jesus' story has been hijacked by a number of other stories. Stories Jesus isn't interested in telling because they have nothing to do with what he came to do. The plot has been lost, and it's time to reclaim it. A staggering number of people have been taught that a select few Christians will spend forever in a peaceful, joyous place called heaven, while the rest of humanity spend forever in torment and punishment in hell, with no chance for anything better. It's been clearly communicated to many that this belief is a central truth of the Christian faith, and to reject it is, in essence, to reject Jesus. This is misguided and toxic, and ultimately subverts the contagious spread of Jesus' message of love, peace, forgiveness and joy that our world desperately needs to hear. Misguided and toxic. Oh, I wouldn't say that myself exactly, but in general I agree with Rob Bell. He's a Christian minister. He's very well read and a very popular author. And that's his point of view on this. Quite fascinating, I think. Well, there you are. That's it for now. I don't know if you agree or disagree or would like to say anything at all. Please pop in the comments and we'll see where we go with this. Okay. Thank you very, very much for watching, and you'll see me in the next one. Okay. Bye-bye.